Hello and welcome to the Bourbon Bear. And after a, albeit crushing loss to the Cleveland Browns after a game, the Bears defense should have won us the game. The Bears are essentially eliminated from the playoffs. Still alive technically, but I think we're sitting at about 2% here. But Bondo, immediate thoughts on that Browns game?
Well, first off, my 7.5 wins for the year is alive. The Bears should be 9-5 right now instead of 5-9 or 5-8. 5-9. 5-9, excuse me. And I do need to add that this is the Bourbon Bear, but the Bourbon Bear was in hibernation for the last 6 weeks. And a little disappointing to all our fans.
There you go.
All our fans in at the off track and St. Viator and Illinois and the guys at work. We finally came back, and I'm proud of Luke to finally get his ass up and start doing another podcast. But our fans know we are here for them.
It's all about the fans. But, Bondo, back to the game itself, though. Overall, the defense played out of their minds. You had a pick six, almost 2 pick sixes. You had, I think, 4 sacks total in the game. The Sweat trade has looked fantastic, and a lot of skepticism after the Claypool trade. It was a second-rounder. The Sweat looks like it's working out. He's fitting this defense, this 4-3 we're running perfectly. And I just want to know, where do you think we go here with Eberflus to start?
Well, Eberflus, in my opinion, first off, Sweat, I agree 1,000%. And that guy will be a Bear for another, 6 years?
Yeah, he signed a big contract.
Yeah, he signed a long-term contract. It's so exciting to see a player like that and leading the not only the Washington sack,
and also the Chicago sack. That's such a cool statistic.
That's probably a stat you're never going to see again.
Yeah.
But yes, Eberflus had a chance. In my opinion, he's going to be gone. And what do you think?
One of the stats you see with him is I think it's the first team in history to lose up by 10 in a fourth quarter in 3 games in one season, and that just shows that the guy can't close a game. The issue I have, though, is I think he is finally figuring out this defense. And I would love, and I know it's not going to happen, but if he would stay on as defensive coordinator if we got a new head coach who's more offensive focused, because Getsy's got to go. Getsy, we'll talk about Fields in a minute, but Getsy is just so bad at adjusting to what another team does. You can't have this anymore. And you saw it, a prime example there. Technically, we scored 17 points. 7 were the defense. Eddie Jackson gets
really
to the 1-yard line.
14 were the defense.
14 you could call the defense. All the offense got was a field goal, and it's just sad to watch this. And you can hate Fields all you want. You got to put some of this on Getsy.
Oh, you got to put a lot of it on Getsy, especially those 3 losses they should have had. I think you had to place on him. I mean, Eberflus. Okay, if you remember the beginning of the year, they lose the coach, then they lose another coach. I mean, that's coach. Now, can he turn it around? Yes, he has turned the defense around, no question about it. And he's a defensive guy, and him taking over was a major plus. But it's like when you're taking a test at Viator and you're a D student. That last test doesn't mean anything because they're not going to give you the F. So he's probably going to be gone. It's too bad, but he was the head coach, and he's got to take the blame.
So, building off of that, though, on to Justin a little bit here. I was a vehement defender of Justin at the start of the season. That game, again, shows you that he might not be the guy. And I'm assuming most of Chicago thinks he's not the guy. And now I went from keep Justin at all costs to now I'm having this come to Jesus moment where I don't know. But regardless, it's all going to come down to what Poles wants to do. So we're sitting on 2 first-round picks. Knock on wood and hypothetical here. We're looking at the 1 and the 5 as of now. What do you want to do with these picks?
Well, I'm convinced that Fields has got to go. It's business. I mean, the only way you look at it is he's going to either sign a big contract or you bring in the rookie with 3 years.
Restart the clock.
Yeah, restart the clock.
Yep.
In the last game, Fields really didn't get any runs in. I mean, last year I know they were more losses. But they were really exciting to watch on offense with Fields running. And, I understand Fields. Injuries are part of the game. But, when you're running like that, you're probably going to get injured. And but it was so exciting. And I think if we could have seen that just in 3 or 4 games, I think, again, our record would be 9-5 as opposed to 5-9. So
So you still have Fields, though, for 2 years. So you've got year 4 and a fifth-year option coming up. So technically, if you do want to move on from Fields, you could trade him.
Yes.
What do you think the realistic value, though, on a trade for Fields would be?
Well, good question. That's a great question. Realistically, if we can get a third rounder, maybe a second, I would do it in a minute. But after that,
That's where I disagree with you. I think a third rounder, no. I'd rather just even hold on to him. If you can get a second or a first rounder for him, and if he balls out the next couple of games, I think there's a chance the Falcons would realistically think about giving you a first rounder for him. Because that offense is more designed for what Fields can do. But if you're giving up a third rounder, it's almost like, why wouldn't you just keep him for, sit behind a guy for a year type situation?
Yeah, but it's also the contract too. He's going to sign a bigger contract,
But you still have the rights though for now.
you have the rights. But he's going to, he's going to want more money. You don't think he wants more money, but
But I'm saying if you are Team Caleb, I mean, you don't want to just throw Caleb into the Bears system without like a year of prep or anything like that, or else you're going to have the definition of insanity, which is we draft a quarterback, we throw him in. Does terrible. We want a new quarterback. And now you're in a position where you've got 2 high first-round picks, which, props to polls, put us in a very good situation to build our future here. So, again, I'm just saying, if you can get a second or first, I'd do the trade. If not, I would not do it. I would, see how things work out. But onto a bigger picture of just Fields in general in this draft, you're sitting on the number 1 overall pick, and you seem convinced Caleb's going to be the guy.
I think so. I mean, again, it's a business decision. His talent, again, and everybody predicting he's the number 1 pick, you have an opportunity. Now, the negative, as you said, is that once you start rebuilding again, or, it's going to be another 2 years before, he understands the system, it's an opportunity, and he could be the quarterback the Bears have needed since Jim McMahon.
Jim McMahon.
And that was, that's my era, but.
Never had the nice things.
Well, he was.
The millennials, we don't get nice things.
No, because we haven't had anything. I mean, God,
2018 was our.
Yeah, you had Rex Grossman of all things,
yeah.
Sexy Rexy wasn't the answer. But this could be, and Caleb could be the guy that brings us into, the Bill Belichick New England era, and with these draft picks, which New England had back then. And of course Brady, the 6th rounder or 7th rounder, whatever he was. But it's a opportunity.
I agree. Opportunity is the best way to put it. But what I'm going to say here is, again, I still love Justin, and it hurts to say it every time because it's just doesn't feel good. But I trust what Poles is doing for this team. And Bondo's also drinking a Coca-Cola, so
oh, Jesus Christ.
Gotta call him out. You wouldn't have a bourbon this early, but I trust in what Poles is doing for this team, and I trust what he decides to do is going to be the best move for the direction we're going. But let me put a hypothetical here for you. That number 1 overall pick, and everyone's hyping up Caleb as the second coming of Peyton Manning type thing. What if you got 3 first-rounders for that from a team like Oakland that's clearly in a rebuild? So you're going to get high first-round picks. 3 first-rounders. That's something, especially with the Bears, their infrastructure, you kind of need. Because, again, if you draft Caleb, great, but the line's still not what the line needs to be. The defense is getting there, but overall it's just kind of is what it is. I don't think you could move on from that.
Well, I mean, if Poles can pull that off, he'd be the greatest magician since Harry Houdini. But
so I guess what's
you
your
guys don't even know what Harry Houdini is.
What's your ceiling though? Like what would you be not draft Caleb if you got the compensation right? What do you think would drive you over? 3 first-rounder might be egregious.
Yeah,
but what do you think?
Well, 2 first-rounders, and in the next
couple
2
seconds or something.
Well, you throw in a third or something. I think that would be. Yeah, but then the future will tell you. I mean, is it a bust? Is it? But I mean, if you had something like 2 first-rounders and a third or a 4th, I mean, that's insane. I mean, you can jump all that and you build a lineup, you build a defense up. I mean, the defense, hey, man.
They're getting there. I'm telling you. The secondary looks great. Eddie Jackson's playing better right now, but I think he's going to be a cap casualty next year. Mm. Cody Whitehair, I think cap casualty. They'll save a ton of the cap if they cut him.
Yeah.
But, so let's say you did draft Caleb. Then you've got your other pick. Who are you taking?
Well, I think the offensive lineman, either the left tackle on Penn State, Ulf, or the center on Georgia.
Olu, not Ulf.
No, his first name's Olaf.
Olu.
Olaf. Ulf. Shanahan.
Oh, boy. Jack, if you thought I was bad.
Yeah. And then, the guy, Van Drain, the center on Georgia, I mean, he could be an immediate force.
And that's what I think, too. I think even though the Lions played better this year, number one, you need a center. But if you can move Braxton Jones to a swing tackle position, kind of where Borum is now, and draft either the Notre Dame or the Penn State left tackles, you're looking at a very solid line if you get center figured out. Now, the issue becomes guard and Jenkins' health, because Jenkins, again, went down in the middle of the Browns game again. He plays great when he's in, but he's just very questionable on injury. What do you think, though, we look to for a center spot?
Well, I like the guy in Georgia.
I agree with that.
Van Drain. He'd fit in right away.
Cedric Van Pan.
Yeah, Van Pan, Van
Pran.
Dran.
Is there a Pan Pam?
It's okay. It's close enough. I mean, when you only have a very few podcasts, I mean, I can't do all the work about it. But no, I agree with you, Luke. If we can pick up, your wishes, I know who your wish is, but it ain't going to happen.
Marvin Harrison Jr. would love him, but it's probably not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. He's going to go, I'd say, third and maybe fourth. Now, if the Bears can make a move, I would love to get Marvin Harrison Jr. It'd be Mooney's kind of checked out.
So that bringing up Mooney really quick though, I think, and I loved Mooney. Coming to the year, I thought this was going to be a breakout year for him. Dropping that ball in the end zone, it was just crushing. And overall in the year, he's just been meh every game, and that's why someone like Marvin Harrison Jr. though, you kind of almost would, you'd love to have him, but you almost need. You're going to need to get a receiver, is what I'm saying.
Well, I agree, and DJ Moore would be the greatest teacher for him.
Sure, agreed. Fantastic route runner.
DJ Moore. You got to give Poles that to me was it made up for the
Claypool
deal. Hands down. But it's a situation where you have needs. And and I see what you're saying with Fields. Maybe have him be the starter and back up. Once this happens, but Fields wants to be a starter. He's not going to.
Oh yeah, he's not. He's got that mentality.
Yeah, he does. And it's like if you saw that in the Cleveland game when he ran, he got clipped on his toe and he fell short by half a yard.
He missed a block there too. That was
if bad. You look, DJ Moore was wide open. Okay, and when you look at who I think, the Baltimore quarterback, Lamar Jackson, excuse me, when he starts like faking to run, he's always throwing.
Yeah,
and the linebackers automatically, in their minds are coming up, and he hits those guys, for that short 6-7 yard pass, and they go for 15.
That's why the Cleveland game was even that much more frustrating, though, because you had Tunyon drop what could have been a 70-yard touchdown, but you also had Fields miss wide open people. His vision down the field is just the most concerning part about it. It's just frustrating, and I'm with you there, because that's the one thing you can't defend. He's only focused on one route half the time and doesn't see the field, which is ironic. His last name's Fields. You can't see it.
That's true, but your last name's Biondi, and you should have been a good football player.
Yeah, that's fair. Could have been Highland Park's finest.
Well, yeah, but no, but and all kidding aside, I still believe in my heart that they could have won the first game, right? And I think that would have really turned the attitude around the team because you need confidence. They got a couple of wins in there. And then the Cleveland disaster. If they pull that one off, I think.
Well, that's as a Bears fan, that gives you hope. You're still in the hunt if you win that game, and how it ended, especially with the dropped Hail Mary in the end zone, it just sums up the Bears. The past 5-year stretch we've been on of just disappointment after disappointment. So that's why I think this offseason is the most exciting with what we have in the draft capital process here. But overall, do you think they can actually do you even want them to win out? Because they have an easy schedule coming up. You've got Arizona and Atlanta and then Green Bay. All winnable games, but at this point,
who cares?
Who cares?
You'd rather keep the fourth or fifth pick than that. But, you got to remember, polls is going to determine if these kids play.
Yep.
right?
Yep.
You know, I mean, if you look at Washington, which we beat. You know, they lose their two top defenders, defensive players, and then, you know, there could be quit. Now, I look at New England. I know Bill Belichick's the greatest coach of all time, and he is. But I'm seeing in New England that those guys don't want to play.
Mm-hmm.
They don't. I mean, there's finger pointing, frustration, and I think, you know, Poles is going to really keep an eye on that. That's why I think Mooney's gone. But
well, I get what you're saying there too. But I think this defense plays for Flues. They will. I mean, they've been balling out even when we had no shot in hell to make the playoffs. They've been playing out of their mind. The Vikings game, out of their minds.
Yeah.
Detroit game, out of their minds. We should have won the Detroit game at Detroit.
Right.
But I think they play for this guy, and that's why it's hard to move on from him as a defensive coordinator. As a head coach, yeah, he's got to go. We talked about those points. But if you could keep him, would you, as DC?
He won't do it.
I don't think he will either. But if you could,
well, you throw out a name that I laugh again. But Vic Fangio was, you know,
he's coaching Miami right now. They're turning it around too.
They are turning it around, except they can't beat a good team. But but you know, if you look at Miami's D, they got a bunch of no-namers back there, and Fangio has done a wonderful job there. And you know, I mean, everybody in Chicago loved him, and you know, he had the Denver job, but you know, maybe he's the kind of guy that you want as a defensive coordinator versus.
So you want to bring Fangio
coach.
Back as DC?
I thought it'd be nice, but who knows?
He was our 2018, our sweetheart. That was all his defense that got us as good as we were.
Well, they understand the schemes, which I think Eberflus, and you know, if Eberflus would go to defense and take a demotion, I'd keep him. I mean, you know, but the offensive guys got to go.
So 2 more points, though, before we get to your picks, because we're on late here. But DJ Moore has come out publicly and defended Fields, saying we want to keep him. So it seems like Fields, at least in terms of the offense, everyone respects him, they like him. What does that carry, if any, weight on the decision Poles has to make?
Well, you know, DJ Moore, I think, is important. I mean, hands down. I can't believe. First of all, I didn't know that, but I think that you know, it's when it's somebody's team, and the Bears right now, it could be DJ Moore's team, but there is no one who's standing out there. You know, even you know, Fields. It's not Fields' team, in my opinion. I mean, you got to be a winner to lead the team. So. That'll be to be determined. But I mean, Caleb, you know, he's got every check on the board, and you know, when you see that, I mean, he can throw, he can run, he can read defenses.
Can he though? Because this year, that's where I'm hearing a lot of when he plays a good defense, he freezes up. I think Notre Dame, he got crushed by. I think
he did.
Or several games that he just was not
well,
great.
His offensive line has totally changed, and when that happens, you know. There's cracks. There's big cracks.
True.
And he didn't have his favorite wide receiver. He was drafted last year, and you know, when you win the Heisman and everything, and you come back and you lose a lot of your players, he probably should have submitted to the draft last year. But that's the game, and you know, he stuck around. And
I don't think he could, but okay.
He couldn't.
No, he's a sophomore. You got to be a junior to declare for.
Oh, is it junior? I thought it was sophomore. Okay, junior. Well, it shows you what I know. But no, I you know, hey, we want the Bears to win.
Exactly. That's what it's all about.
We you know, I was around for 85, and it was probably the funnest, the most fun I ever had going to games. I went to every home game and both playoff games and 2 road games, and you know, it was magic, and we need that back in Chicago. We're having a tough year in all sports right now.
That's true. But all right, ending it off though, your picks for this weekend.
Well, first off, I'm still sticking by my 7.5 wins, which I got criticized. Which I think we can do it. You know, all we need to do is win the last 3, and as long as we beat the Packers, then you know, I'll still be happy. But since we've been on this hiatus, you know, my 12-5 record, which is published in all national, we'll check the tapes. But since we've been gone, I've got a plethora of picks today because I want to get, you know, I want to get the ratings up here on the Bourbon Bear, which, by the way, every time we, say Bourbon Bear, we should be hitting this thing. But today we go with Pittsburgh +3.
Thank you, Jerry.
Yeah. Pitt +3. Indy tomorrow +3. Tennessee, everybody's laughing, but Tennessee at home, different team, +3.5. You're not going to like this, but Minnesota +3. Here's another check mark. Dallas +1.5 to 2. I seen both of those. Denver -6.5. And the last pick and the best pick will be the Bears -4.5.
Ooh.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm going Bears.
So you said you love Cardinals, I thought.
Nah, I don't love the Cardinals. They left Chicago 40 years ago, and I've held a grudge since. So for all the old timers.
And that'll do it. Shout out to Roman Korab. Happy birthday. We're excited to celebrate with you soon. But bear down, friends. Good to be back.
It's really bourbon. Don't let them fool you.
Stop, bourbon.